Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. My two-part Justice Primetime exclusive interview with White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer is on deck. But first, my opening statement. So, 46 United States attorneys have been asked by the newly elected President of the United States to tender their resignations. So what? That's what I said. So what? But to hear it from the left, you would think this is just another affront to democracy and our way of life by the Trump administration. In fact, I'm surprised they didn't throw in the Russians. Let me give it to you straight. This is a non-story. It is not unusual for any new administration to seek the dismissal of political appointees, especially when a new party comes in. United States attorneys are political appointees who serve at the pleasure of the president. In 1993, Bill Clinton's administration sought the resignation of all sitting United States attorneys appointed by Republican President George Bush in one fell swoop. The Obama administration also replaced all United States attorneys but one from the Bush 43 administration. Now, for those of you who might be new to politics, a quote from President Barack Obama: "Elections have consequences." Or you might be more familiar with the old adage, "To the victor belong the spoils." But why go quietly and with dignity when you can create chaos? The United States Attorney from New York's Southern District, without a doubt the premier district in the nation, digs in his heels and refuses to resign, absurdly claiming he won't resign and insisting the president fire him. Say what? Do you really think you have a claim to this office? Take a listen to Preet on November 30th when he rushed to the cameras at Trump Tower.
The President-elect asked, presumably because he's a New Yorker and is aware of the great work that our office has done over the past 7 years, asked to meet with me to discuss whether or not I'd be prepared to stay on as the United States Attorney, to do the work as we have done it, independently, without fear or favor for the last 7 years. We had a good meeting. I said I would absolutely consider staying on.
Folks, what are the operative words? The president asked if he'd be prepared to stay on, not please stay on. And his response was he would consider it. Now, he then goes on to say he was asked to stay on and he agreed, but we really don't know what was said. That's his version, not the Trump team's. And now, when 47 have already automatically stepped aside because they know the protocol, the remaining 46 are asked to tender their resignations. Bahara comes out, refuses to resign, and can't believe that this would apply to him, and says Donald Trump will have to fire him, as if he's got a hold on that office. And Preet, men bigger than you, gentlemen, have left when new administrations came in. Giants like Whitney Seymour, Robert Fisk, Rudy Giuliani, James Comey, David Kelly. So since this happens all the time, what's the fuss? All day today, the Trump haters have claimed any change interrupts ongoing investigations and prosecutions and ultimately jeopardizes Lady Justice, that especially in offices where public corruption cases are being tried, justice is at stake. As if only one man carries a whole office. Cut it out. Do you really think that this is the first time in the history of this country that a prosecutor, federal, state, local, town, village, hamlet, has been replaced by another one? What the hell do we do when they die? Just give up? Here's my question. No one but Preet Bharara used the word fire all were asked for resignations. Who knows? Maybe some would have been asked to stay on. And just moments before we came on air, I found out 2 were, even though they tendered their resignations. But because Preet has such a huge ego, because he thinks he's so all-important that he couldn't believe such a request could possibly apply to him, he ramped it up and dared the President of the United States to fire him. So what do you think happened? Lady Justice is winking under her bandages. And Donald Trump did what only Donald Trump can do so well. He said, "You're fired." And that's my opening statement. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page or Twitter. Hashtag Judge Jeanine. And joining me now is constitutional law professor at George Washington University, Jonathan Turley. All right, Jonathan Turley, you are a giant among constitutional lawyers. We're thrilled to have you on, Jonathan. Thank you. Am I wrong?
About my being a giant among constitutional lawyers? Absolutely not. You're correct on that, and I can't amplify that enough. No, the point is a very, very good one. I still am not sure what point was being made by the U.S. Attorney. He seems to be a rebel without a cause on this. He does serve at the pleasure of the President. This has happened before. It's not strange. And the great irony is that presidents will often ask for global resignations and decide not to accept some, which, of course, he decided in 2 cases to do precisely that. It might have been 3 cases, except the way that this was handled. But it's perfectly bizarre to me for people to lionize this act. I considered it deeply unprofessional. I mean, he is a high-ranking political appointee. He serves at the pleasure of the President. Many U.S. attorneys will put forward the resignation as a matter of course. But when you're asked by the Attorney General to put in your letter, you do so because you're a professional. And I'm not too sure what he was trying to achieve. I still don't know what the point is, quite frankly. I don't know why you would want the president to fire you.
Well, you know what? It's almost like Sally Yates. You know, they have to make themselves some kind of a hero to the left. But what is amazing is that my understanding is that Dana Bente had called everyone of the remaining 47. 46 had already tendered their resignation. And they were called and they were told, look, you're going to get an email or a letter. And, you know, they got that courtesy ahead of time. And he went ballistic. He said, this can't possibly apply to me. But let's assume that he was right and he felt that he had been offered the job. At any point in time, he can be asked for his resignation. So what makes him think he's entitled to that job?
Well,
I mean, it's juvenile.
It is juvenile, and that's what I find just mystifying, is that I don't know what he was trying to suggest when he said, you're going to have to fire me. It's like a guest that won't leave after dinner. You know, this isn't your table. I mean, you don't have the right to stay. But particularly as an attorney, it's not that your client is the President of the United States. He's not. It's not that you are dependent upon him. You're not. You're only dependent upon him in one sense, and that is he controls your office. He's the head of the executive branch. And so if someone comes to you as the President of the United States and says, I need all of your resignations, the answer is yes. And there's no variation on that. I don't understand why people are lionizing him for this. I considered this a rather silly and theatrical move. Well, you know, I also think, by the way, it's a shame because he has an impressive record, and I think he tarnished both his legacy and his office.
You know, it's interesting that you know, I've been listening to people on the left all day long and saying he's got such a great record, he's such a great prosecutor, but I don't know any United States attorney in the Southern District, as I said, the premier district in the nation, who hasn't been a phenomenal prosecutor. I mean, all of these men and one woman, as I recall, are the best of the best. And it's not as though they can't find somebody else who's terrific. But to those out there who think that one person carries the whole office, I mean, in fact, I ran an office. My chief assistant probably knew more about cases than I did. I mean, say, you run the office, but, in terms of the facts, there are a lot of other people below you who know a lot more than you do. But
I think that's right. I mean, when you're the U.S. Attorney in Manhattan, you represent a premier office with people that work very hard, and that comes with a certain responsibility. You don't demean that office with these types of, frankly, juvenile acts. You're a professional. You're the United States Attorney. You serve at the pleasure of the president. And if the president wants all of the resignations of every U.S. attorney, you send it in. You don't have this sort of peevish, taunt. And so in the end, I think this is a sad way for him to end a very impressive career as U.S. attorney.
Yes, very true. Jonathan Turley, certainly a giant. Thanks for being with us. And this week, I spoke with White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer about a range of topics. First up, the recent WikiLeaks document dump on the CIA and what it means for our national security. Here's part of that interview. Okay, I want to talk about Julian Assange, okay? Julian Assange is now talking about how, he can get all of this information from the CIA and all of this leaks. And I'm just curious, has the president met with the CIA Director Pompeo to discuss the enormous leaking that's going on? And do they have a strategy? And my second part of that question is, given the fact that there is a very small pool of individuals from the FBI and the CIA who had access to the information that was leaked, and I think I heard one congressman, one of the 8, say that it's limited to about 30 people. Are we going to get to the bottom of who is leaking this extremely important information out?
Well, the president speaks to his CIA director daily to get an update on our national security situation and the threats that we face and what we're doing to keep the country safe. That being said, we don't comment on the allegations of leaks. It is something that that holistically the president has been very, very concerned with the leaks that have come out throughout the administration, throughout government, that have been pervasive in our government for a very long time, stretching back several administrations. But he feels very strongly that this undermines our national security and the safety of our country, and he has been taking steps and working with the various agencies to make sure that we get to the bottom and that we clog all of these potential leaks and punish those who potentially are leaking our national security.
With what President Obama did on December 29th, on his leaving and opening up all of this intelligence classified information to 16 other agencies, can we anticipate that President Trump will try to tighten up that information to a very small group of individuals again and make it not as pervasive through the government?
Well, the president has made it very clear to all of the agencies that deal in this area that they need to take the appropriate steps and actions to safeguard our national security efforts. He understands that these sort of efforts that have been going on, not just recently, but have gone on for years and, in fact, decades, threaten our ability to protect ourselves, and that they only embolden the enemy who seeks to do our people and our country harm, and that we need to be aggressively pursuing those who leak or share other classified or other detrimental information beyond the people that they're authorized to do so. This is a national security problem, and this president takes it very, very seriously.
All right, last question. With Jim Comey calling on the Department of Justice to back up his statement that there was no wiretapping, do you find it, or does the president find it unusual that a man who was not shy of a camera during the last campaign would hesitate to get in front of a camera and say what he wants the Department of Justice to say?
Well, all I'm going to say on this is that I've continued just to receive, or read rather, reports about what Director Comey has said privately. No one has, that I'm aware of, in this administration has heard from him specifically. We continue to see these unnamed anonymous sources listed in newspapers that suppose what he said or did not say. Right. I'm going to leave it to Director Comey to speak for himself, but fundamentally that's why the president has asked the House and Senate Intelligence Committee to go through their process using their resources to begin to get through a lot of the look of what we've seen now with respect to leaks and other things. It's important to note, though, that the people who have been briefed with respect to Russia and allegations of coordination of various entities, that every single person that's been briefed, from Senator Rubio to Senator Burr, Chairman Devin Nunes of the House Intelligence Committee, have said that they've seen nothing linking anything to this. And I think that that's sort of an interesting story that does not get the attention that it deserves. The people who have seen the intelligence have said unequivocally that there's nothing there, and yet that story seems to get pushed by the wayside.
Welcome back to Justice. U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Preet Bharara, defiantly forces the Trump administration to fire him. This as more leaks continue to plague the president and his team. Let's get into it all with liberal radio talk show host Coco Sudek. All right, Coco, you agree.
Hello, Judge.
Hi. You do agree, do you not, that the president has the right to ask for the resignation of all United States attorneys, correct?
Of course. Absolutely. Absolutely. But this one's different, Judge.
Oh, no. I thought we were going to move on.
No.
Why
President
is
Trump
Preet
personally-
Bharara different?
Right. Because President Trump personally asked him to stay
That's
during
what
his transition.
he says. Trump administration denies that.
And so does Schumer. And so does Senator Schumer. But
Schumer's
Preet
mad because
Bharara-
Trump
but
called him a
Preet
circus
Bharara-
clown.
But he is a great man when it comes to law and order, and Trump ran as the law and order president. Getting rid of this law and order hero really sort of defeats that whole pledge that he's going to be the law and order president. But more importantly, Preet Bharara is investigating Russian money laundering scandals.
How do you know that?
Because it's been reported by about 8 different news agencies today.
All right.
All right.
Now I'm
he's
going to
been
stop
banned
you.
in
Let
Russia.
you talk. Okay. Number one.
And he's been banned in Russia.
You think he's the only law enforcement hero out there? Everyone who sat in that seat has been a hero.
Right.
This guy's got an ego bigger than this studio. His fingernails are on the frame of the door as they told him to get the hell out. Here's the thing. He said, I'm in the middle of all these investigations, and therefore you can't let me go, as if he's the only one who could do them. And by the way, any investigation is generally handled by the guy underneath him. He's been investigating Andrew Cuomo for, 3 years now? And that's one of the things that he's saying. I'm still investigating. You can't let me go. He's a smart guy, and he's probably going to run for governor, and that's why he's doing all this. But you know what? We'll hear more about Russia. Let's go on. Look,
he's also wait.
Go ahead.
Wait, one more thing.
Wait.
He's
Go
also
ahead.
investigating. He's investigating Fox News. Also, by the way.
Oh, really?
For securities violations. For securities violations.
Really?
In connection with failure. Yeah. In connection with failure
Where
to disclose.
do you get this crap from, Coco? You make this stuff up before you get here.
From a variety of news sources, and when I'm done,
From
I will
Variety,
tweet,
probably.
I will tweet all of my
Variety.
references.
Okay, let's move on.
That's one.
Let's talk about this. All right, so now we've got WikiLeaks, the CIA, and all this other stuff. On March 20th, we're going to have a hearing as to what's going on with Russia and this administration. Now, Clapper says there's nothing to indicate that there's anything going on between the Trump administration and Russia. And we've got Devin Nunes, who's on the Intelligence Committee, says there's no connection, and Burr and all the rest of them. And these people are having a breakdown, including Adam Schiff, because they keep saying there's got to be a connection. There's got to be a connection. There is no connection, according to all the intelligence agencies. Now, Clapper worked for Obama. Do we not believe him?
2,820. 2,820.
What?
That's the number of automatic pings that went between a Trump campaign server and a Russian bank.
Okay, so why
he just fired the U.S. attorney who's investigating Russian money laundering?
No. First of all, he would not be the only one to look at that. Right now, the FBI is doing the work, Coco, not Preet.
The Russian fertilizer king's plane.
Counterintelligence is doing it. Who do you think got the FISA? Not Preet. Come on, Coco. This is something totally different. And to be honest with you, if Clapper says there's nothing there and everyone else says there's nothing there.
That's not what Clapper said.
Yes,
no,
he did.
That's not what Clapper said.
He says there's no connection. Oh, come on, Coco.
No, that's not what he said.
What did he say?
He said there's no wiretap. No, he said there's no wiretap of Trump Tower.
He did not
that's
say
what he said.
there was no wiretap. He said there was no evidence of collusion between the Trump administration and Russia. Now,
I understand
this
is Fox News.
This has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It has
This has everything to do with Donald Trump and the shady, corrupt administration that he's running.
Corrupt
and you guys are covering for him because this is Fox News.
Oh, my goodness. Fox News?
Yes, that's exactly
really?
what I said.
Let me ask you a question.
You guys are covering for him.
Do you really think that Barack Obama, who opened up the intelligence agencies so they could leak everything, who's got a shadow government with Valerie Jarrett in Washington right now? Oh,
nobody thinks that's
Why
real.
is he still
That's
in
only
Washington?
Fox News and Breitbart and all the rest of these crazy organizations.
Who's living in that house and building a wall in Washington?
No. Yeah, I don't know
Barack
what you're
Obama.
talking about.
Oh, Valerie didn't move in
There's
with
no
them?
evidence about that.
Okay,
The
gotta
Wall
go.
Street, no.
Coco, stop making this crap
That's
up
it?
before you come on. Goodbye. The fight's not over. Next. My political panel just can't wait to get into it. Next time I'm going to let you fight with her. This is a big week in American politics. David Avella and Chris Hahn standing by, ready to rumble. And later. So is the president threatening anybody that he won't support them or that it'll work? Come on,
That's
Sean.
not his style. That is not his style.
Just how ugly will things get in the fight over health care? I asked Sean Spicer in part 2 of my Justice Primetime exclusive. Justice rolls on in a moment. Welcome back to Justice. Time for the panel, live with David Avella Gopak, chairman and radio talk show host, former aide to Schumer, Chris Hahn. Thanks for being here. All right, guys, real fast. Preet Bharara, was he very gentlemanlike, Chris?
Look, he's my former colleague. I think he's a great guy. And I think that the president asked him to stay, and he should have kept him. It gave me a lot of hope that the president was going to hire good people. President has the right to pick his U.S. attorneys.
What, is he the only good prosecutor in the country?
No, look, everybody's replaceable. The cemeteries are filled with irreplaceable people. But you know what? That's life. But the president did say he was going to keep him. It gave a lot of people like me hope that he was going to keep him.
That's his version. And you know what? Even if the president did say it, he could change his mind tomorrow. David, hit it.
For years now, the rumors have been that this guy is running for governor of New York. Donald Trump made a Preet. And Donald Trump made a Trump-tastic move by getting rid of him because we don't need the U.S. Attorney's Office to be used to run for governor of New York.
You know, it sure looks like he got the idea from Sean Hannity on Thursday night. I'm wondering if when the president sent the letter of firing, he put the hashtag LNYB, let not your heart be troubled on it. I'm wondering.
Okay. Well, you know what? We'll never know. But what we do know is that the president is clearly within his right. And you know what the shame of it is, Chris? We don't know whether or not he would have been one of the ones that the president would have asked to stay. Because if you go across the board and say, tender your resignations, we know of 2 that were, offered the job after they tendered them. But anyway, I want to go to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks and all this craziness. Now, we've got all this stuff coming out of the leaks coming out of the CIA, and the Intelligence Committee is getting all of these briefings from Jim Comey, and they've been unusually quiet, but we've got these hearings coming up on March 20th. So is Julian Assange a WikiLeaks? Is he friend or foe? What do you say, Chris?
I say foe. In fact, he's got all the markings of somebody who's being controlled by a foreign government that does not have our best interests at heart. And while you might like him because of your political persuasion at times, be careful. When it doesn't suit that country's interest to be good to you, they are going to use him against you.
Okay.
We should not allow this to continue.
Okay, so forget about the country that he may be an operative of. Do you think that it's a good idea, David, to at least know that our country may be surveilling us?
Look, the American people give our U.S. government and the CIA and the FBI in particular billions of dollars every year to take on measures to make sure we stay safe. Assange is releasing some of those. But here is a far bigger issue, Judge, that is coming out with this WikiLeaks. Now they're saying to private companies like Apple that, look, we're showing you what's out there and what we know is out there. But look, if you hire us or you let us know and you let us in, then we're going to do some white hacking to help you close up your systems.
So
now you've got
Assange
US
the guy's an entrepreneur
that are going to have to decide. Judge, you're going to have companies that have to decide.
Dave. Dave, it's like the big bad wolf saying, little pig, let me in.
Yeah, but you know
that's
what,
what
Chris,
that is.
Chris, when I was a prosecutor, I got to tell you, some of the best guys who were informants were the dirtbags because they know the game better than a lot of us in law enforcement knew it. And
well,
not
it's
that
like
I
that
believe
movie
that,
Catch Me. It's like the movie Catch Me If You Can, right?
I didn't see that one,
that's
but
how
anyway.
some of these guys are.
Yeah. Okay. But you know, David, in the end, I mean, what Microsoft has said that some of their new software prevents the kind of stuff that Assange is doing. But you know, Chris, at the end of the day, there is very little that WikiLeaks exposed that wasn't truthful.
Yeah, look, again, the fact that they are able to do what they're doing suggests that they have help from a major foreign power. And the fact that they're doing it is something that we should be very concerned about.
Do you agree with that, David? That it had to be help from a foreign power?
There is no evidence. This is like saying Russia hacked our elections. I mean, we don't know that there's any evidence of this,
God.
but what we
come on, David, don't you read the paper?
Look, this is a dangerous world.
Look,
and
the
we
guy
have to
appears
have
to
our
be
CIA and our FBI up on tactics to make sure we're keeping this country safe. And just as we have had the entire time of our country, we've had to modernize, we've had to be ahead of the bad guys who want to do bad things. This is another case of this, but Americans are fine with spending money on what the CIA and the FBI are doing to keep us safe.
Look, he's not a friend of the United States of America, and it's time that the White House makes that very clear to him.
Why? Do you think that we should charge him and extradite him?
Yeah, well,
we've been trying to extradite him. We've been trying to extradite him. He's held up in a foreign embassy. And
yeah.
Yes,
okay.
and he's
all
not
right, but
in the Ecuadorian embassy, and he's not coming
here's
back.
the bottom line. We've got Snowden, and we've got Assange, and we've got the other guy who's now a woman. Who is that one? Who's the other one?
Ashley,
The
guy, the former military guy, yes.
Come on, guys, tell me. And in my ear, they'll tell me in a minute. But anyway, I mean, and now we find out that all of this stuff that we think is secret and protected, Chelsea Manning. Thank you.
Chelsea Manning.
Chelsea Manning. That all this stuff we think is secret is not. Sometimes, and I'm a prosecutor. I'm like into the Patriot Act, and I'm all American and all that jazz. But sometimes we really need to know about the crap that is out there and that is not protected. Don't you agree, David?
Well, we certainly need to know what the bad guys know about our technologies, but we are certainly collecting valuable information that keeps our country safe, and we ought to be encouraging the CIA and the FBI to continue advancing the techniques they're using to find out not only what bad actors like Assange is doing to bring down our security, but what terrorist groups are doing and what foreign countries are doing.
But here's a problem, because I got to go.
We need a strong FBI
Okay, and
CIA.
I got to tell you, it may be the FBI and CIA that's doing some of the leaking. So there. David Avella and Chris Hom, thanks so much. And
thanks, Judge.
Part 2 of my interview with Sean Spicer ahead, and next, Marines in Syria. What are the long-term ramifications for the administration and the military? My friend Colonel David Hunt standing by to get into all of this with me. Stay with us. U.S. Marines have arrived in Syria with heavy artillery. The deployment is part of a specific mission in the city of Raqqa from ISIS. Fox News military analyst and author of the new book, Without Mercy, Colonel David Hunt. All right, Colonel. So while everyone is focused on the Trump tweets, you break the fact that American troops are on the ground in Syria. When, where, and how many?
Yeah, I talked about it on Tuesday. You've got around 300 Rangers from the 3rd Battalion, 3rd Ranger Battalion on these mechanized vehicles called Stryker vehicles that came on Tuesday, and about Thursday, about 200 Marines in support of them in the form of artillery. 155 artillery are in. So the point of that is we've invaded Syria with cooperation from Russia, and although Assad says no, we're not there without Assad's permission, and we're in the fight in Mosul, Iraq. So we've got almost 10,000 soldiers on the ground in a fight between Iraq and Syria. That's kind of a big deal. And we've got soldiers that are going to be stationed in Kuwait to reinforce both those efforts. So we've had a substantial commitment now of almost 10,000 soldiers in two countries, fighting two different wars, Iraq and now in Syria.
Okay, so that number, 10,000 boots on the ground now, is up from what? From the Obama administration?
250 about 3 years ago started this.
Wow.
And on the Obama
And we're up to
administration, we were looking at, yeah, we were looking at 6,000 for a while. But in order to pull this operation off with support and reinforcements and what's happening in Mosul and Iraq, and again, we're going to go up and kill ISIS and get them out of Raqqa, I get. The problem's going to be, and we're going to be very successful at it, is what do you do with these unstable states like Syria and Iraq and Libya and Yemen? Because the terrorism is not going to go away. We're fighting for 16 years.
All right.
If we don't get at the cause, it's going to be 16 more.
All right, let me ask you this. So Russia is fighting ISIS. Assad is fighting ISIS.
Yes.
We are fighting ISIS. We're all in Syria. So are we coordinating with Russia and Assad? We
Absolutely.
have to.
We have to, of course. It makes military sense, tactical sense. It's just strange bedfellows happen in the middle of a war on terror.
So why is Assad saying, when he's asked, did you open the door for American troops? He said, no, we didn't. Any foreign troops coming to Syria without our invitation are invaders, whether they're American or anyone else. Why is Assad saying that?
Assad asked to answer to his own population and his allies, but you've got Turkish troops. You've got about 7 different militaries on one side of this trying to fight, and you got about 10 terrorist organizations on the other side. This is chaos, and part of what we're trying to do in this is to keep the friendly forces apart. And it's a very dangerous mission, as all combat is. But this is not. We're going to have more of this and not less.
Are we going to finish ISIS,
surprising.
Colonel? Are we going to finish ISIS?
Yes.
Trump says he was. He's going to do it.
Yes.
Then what?
Yeah. Well, killing ISIS is. We will. We've got a great military, and we've been killing terrorists for 16 years. The problem is then what do you do with the countries after you kill ISIS? If you don't fix these countries and the refugees problem, then you're going to continue having this terrorism war.
Okay. All right. Now, your new book. There's talk of a movie, your new book, Without Mercy, and I love it. I love your book because it sounds just like you. And you know what I love about it? It's about terrorism. I'm going to say real fast. My favorite part is the female president who's a combat warrior and won a Silver Star. What do you want to say about it real fast?
That's the best book of its genre out there. You can buy it at withoutmercy.org or text at 6566, like the word mercy. We've got a Facebook page at Without Mercy. It's a terrorism book, a little apocalyptic, that has ISIS getting nukes from Pakistan, and they blow one up in Bagram Air Base. They send it to the U.S., another nuke, and how the U.S. and the world would react. We go through 4 different countries. This is a page turner. We're very proud of this. I wrote it with R.J. Pinero, who's a great author.
Okay, forget that. You're wonderful. I read the book. You cannot put it down. Colonel David Hunt, my friend. Goodbye.
Thank you.
All right. I'm talking about the GOP plan to replace Obamacare and what it means for you with White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer. Next. Time for part 2 of my primetime exclusive interview with White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer. The topic, GOP's health care plan. Take a look. Hi, Sean. Thanks for being with us.
You bet, Judge. Thanks for having me.
All right. Now, the president says things are coming along very well with the health care replacement plan, but we're seeing a lot of resistance from the right and from the left. So how confident is the president that this bill is going to pass? And would you say that it's going to pass in the first 100 days? And if it doesn't in the first 100 days, would this be a failure for the president?
Well, I think it's going to pass. The president's very committed to seeing this through. He's been meeting with members from both houses and both parties, senators, congressmen, Republicans, Democrats. He understands that the current health care law is broken. We've got patients that are paying more and more every year with skyrocketing premiums. They're having fewer and fewer choices. In 1/3 of all the counties in our nation, there's only one choice for a health care provider, which is essentially making it no choice. They're not getting what they were promised 8 years ago. It is not affordable. It is not accessible. In many cases, people have a card, but they don't have care. Right. And I think the president recognized the importance of health care in our society, and he's working to get this passed through. That being said, we've hosted committee chairmen here at the White House for three reasons. One is to thank them. Two is to point out that in both committees, as this has gone through in the House, there's been unanimous support from Republicans. But most importantly, this is a three-pronged approach, Judge. It was passed that way, and we've got to do it the same way, meaning we can do certain things through an arcane process called reconciliation, which basically means there are certain things you can do legislatively and certain things you can't. We've started the bill in that process, and then there are other things that can be done administratively, and then other things that have to be done in the third prong, which is additional legislative stuff, meaning that we can buy health care across state lines, expand the pool of health savings accounts, allowing small businesses to pool their resources together. But we have to look at this effort as a comprehensive effort, not just the current bill that's going through.
Would it be considered a win if you just repealed the thing and started all over?
Well, that's what we're doing, though. This is the most comprehensive repeal effort that we've seen. You've got to do it in a way that doesn't jeopardize people's health care.
You're repairing it at the same time that you're repealing it.
Well, we're repealing it, but we're also making sure that we start to put in place the phase one aspects of this and ensure that American people get the health care coverage that they need. Now, remember, Jeanine, this is really important. For most Americans, they get their coverage through their employer. The only thing that's going to happen through this entire plan is probably their premiums are going to go down over time as we instill more competition and choice.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Right, it would, because the problem with Obamacare fundamentally is that it sought to fix the problem with people not having health care that were outside employer-based health care, Medicaid, TRICARE, and Medicaid. What happened was it affected the entire system. 1/5 of our economy was affected because the way that the Obama administration approached this wasn't to target the people who didn't have health care, but was basically to ruin the entire system for everybody, and nobody benefited out of that. Now, what we need to do is make sure we were focusing on those people who don't have care or can't afford to have the care because of the way the system was implemented.
There are some who are saying that the president has actually threatened to work against those Republicans who are not in support of the bill. Is there any substance to that?
Well, look, this president, they are a very successful businessman. He knows how to get deals. He knows how to negotiate. He's sitting down with these members. And to be honest, a lot of times people don't fully appreciate the comprehensive nature of the approach that he and the House are taking in this. So we've had some very, very optimistic meetings with members of Congress, senators, and outside interest groups that have become very, very supportive once they hear the comprehensive nature of what the president's seeking to achieve and how he's seeking to do it.
So is the president threatening anybody that he won't support them or that it'll work? Come on,
That's
Sean.
not his style. That is not his style.
Time will tell. My thanks to White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer. We'll be right back. If you missed your weekly dose of street justice, fear not. We have a special Sunday edition of Justice on Tap for tomorrow night at 9, and you'll see it then. Plus, I'm going to show you who the recipient of the Patriot Award at the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Annual event was. That's tomorrow night. Friend me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Judge_Jeanine. Thanks so much for watching. The Greg Gutfeld Show is next. See you tomorrow night.